Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Jungle Gyms podcast. You're here with me, Paddy and Anthony tonight. Tonight was scheduled in for a guest appearance by Dale O'Reilly from the Celtic Supporters podcast. But unfortunately, we had a wee bit of bad news over the weekend about the passing of Bertie Auld. So thanks to Dale, he's agreed to give up his spot tonight so that we can spend a bit of time talking about Bertie. So Sunday night, the news broke that Bertie had passed away, and ever since then, you know, the whole Celtic family been grieving. There's been outpours of messages across the world. We've heard countless stories about Bertie in the media. You know, guys for the likes of John Hartson, a good pal of his. Just everybody has just been sharing these brilliant, magical stories about wee Bertie. McGinty, it's been a hard couple of days for the Celtic family.
It has. I think everybody kind of knew it was coming at some point, but was it July when we heard about the dementia kind of broke through?
Yep.
With this kind of disease, it can really come on quite quickly, seemingly, and it's a real shame. He's obviously a big part of Celtic history and a big part of Celtic supporters as a whole. He was a Celtic man himself, so to hear the news in July and then to hear only barely into mid part of November, a few months later, it's really sad. It's something that I think we all figured was going to come at some point, but I think we all hoped maybe would get a bit longer with the wee man.
As you said, it was July that the news broke out. I'm sure it was passed on to Bertie's family that he was suffering from dementia, and I mean that's only been a few months since that broke out to his untimely passing on Sunday. As I said, there's been lots of anecdotes, lots of stories told about him. You know, we're seeing the recordings of the games, his goals playing for Celtic. I mean, obviously the biggest game that he was involved in was the 67 European Cup Final.
A small minor game, nothing important.
Absolutely not.
I'm sure he never remembered much about it.
Absolutely not. No, he was an integral member of that team. I mean, just to touch upon his kind of stats and that. I mean, he joined Celtic in 1955 for Maryhill Harp. He was from Maryhill. He played 74 games in that first spell. He then went on loan to Dunbarton, and he was sold to Birmingham City in 1961. Spent a few years there, and then Big Jock came to be Celtic manager, and Big Jock came a calling and brought Bertie back. And wee Bertie was part of a team that Jock built, and just he managed to acquire these brilliant players that all intertwined so well with each other, and that culminated with the success of Celtic starting their domestic dominance back in Scotland, and of course the run to the 67 European Cup Final. It was held in Lisbon. You know, you hear the stories about that day, McGinty, and it's obviously the famous thing about the Celtic team that day was that they were all born within 35 to 40 miles of Celtic Park, and you've got the players in the tunnel, wee Bertie and that, standing talking away, patting each other on the back, just having a carry on. And they're talking about the Inter Milan players coming out, you know, or Italian, Latino, or Latin, sorry. And I think one of the comments was that they all looked like movie stars. And there's like wee Jinky, you know, wee ginger-haired guy, wee Bertie, 5'6". And that's when they started talking like, let's intimidate them. And then the next minute, wee Bertie just breaks out into song, starts singing the Celtic song, "Hail, hail, the Celts are here." And that's what he says. He says, ever since as soon as they done that, he says they literally had Inter Milan rattled. You know, they'd never seen such a collection of players. All these wee pasty white ginger guys, wee black guys, wee Bertie with a big mouthful of teeth, all just singing, going mental in the tunnel. You know, they're all laser focused, and there's these guys just having a sing song. And then obviously they go to the park, and they managed to achieve arguably one of the biggest achievements in sporting history. You know, first British team to win the European Cup, See all the players within that radius of Celtic Park. It's just a phenomenal achievement. But clearly we weren't of age to be seeing that. We can only go on what we've seen in like YouTube clips, stories that we were told by that generation, but dads, uncles, whatever. But what we did see and what we could see was Bertie, the man. And he was never a guy that was shy. Kind of being at a social event to do with Celtic. He was at CSC dinner dances. He was here. He was there. He was always seen at Charlie and the boys' gigs. He was out on stage with the European Cup, and just some of the patter that came for the wee man was top notch. I actually think we've got a wee tiny video, so we'll just play that now, just to give the viewers that possibly don't know Bertie, kind of a wee example, the kind of character that he was.
I remember coming down the tunnel at Ibrox, and John Gregg was standing across from me, and Greggy says, "What's your bonus a day, wee man?" I says, "3 quid." He says, "We're on 6. I says, "But I'm fucking guaranteed 3.
I do love that. It kind of epitomises his character, I think. I've unfortunately never met him, but watching all these videos talking to an old man who has Bertie Auld is one of his favourite players for a Celtic player. But that just kind of epitomises the kind of character he was. A wee bit cheeky, a kind of down-to-earth kind of guy, tell it how it is sort of thing, and a little bit of wit and a little bit of charm in there as well.
Oh, totally gallus. Absolutely gallus. I mean, that clip, I can't mind the year actually, but that was for a Junkie Johnson kind of tribute night in the Bears Bar on the Gallagher, which is obviously not there anymore. But there's a few clips on show, and it's the Lisbon Lions that were there that night. The part that was flowed between them. Wee Bertie was obviously like he just kind of took over the mic and just blew the crowd. I mean, I've kind of bumped into him a few times, but the first time I ever met him, funny enough, it was actually in Celtic Park. I'd got hospitality tickets into one of the lounges, the tenants lounge actually, and it was Neil Lennon's first night in the Champions League as a manager, Celtic. I think it might have been 2007. We were playing Benfica at Parkhead. So I'm in the tenant suite, usual lagers flowing, bursting for a pee. So I goes into the toilet, and unbeknownst to me, the Legends Lounge is next door. So I didn't know this anyway. So I'm in doing a pee, standing at the urinal. So I'm just standing there doing a pee, and the next minute Ozzy hears this, "Hello son, how are you?" So I turns to my right, and I'm like, "Jesus, Mr. Auld, how are you doing?" Wee Bertie's standing beside me doing a pee, so I'm kind of, I've turned to the side a wee bit bashful. "How you doing, Mr. Auld?" He's like, "I know bad, son, how are you?" "I good, just have a nice night. Yourself?" I same. So we ended up talking away in the toilets, washed my hands and that. He's like, "So son," says, who was your favourite player?" I says, "Well, Mr. Auld," I says, "obviously, I never had the pleasure being able to watch you guys, the Lions, that kind of era, in the flesh. Obviously saw you on YouTube, amazing, legends." I says, "The number one I would have to mention would be Henrik Larsson." He says, "Oh, what a player, son, what a player. Wish we had him in the Lions." I says, "But really," I says, "out with Larsson," I says, "my favourite player is Big Bobo." And I've mentioned that on here a few times. I absolutely love Big Bobo.
Had him in your best 11, so you did?
I did, and I would have him in every single best 11. Just one of my favourite players. I loved a big defender who could just go through somebody. And he actually told me a wee story. He says, "Oh, son," he says, "Big Bobo," he says, "you'll never ever meet such a nicer, kinder, kind of sweet man." And I'm like, "What do you mean, Bertie?" I says, "He's about fucking 6'5". I says, "He's an absolute brick shithouse." And he says, "Oh, it doesn't matter." He says, what a lovely, lovely big man." He says, half his wages every week, he sends it straight back to Guinea. He says his wages are getting used to make schools, build houses, educate and feed kids. And I'm like, oh God, that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. I don't think I'm being disrespectful here when I share the rest of the story, but what he did say to me is, he says, "I tell you what," he says, "it was an absolute disgrace what this club done to Big Bobo." He says they fucking chased him out the door because he was earning money that they gave him. They bastards gave him. And I'm like, God. So that was it. So
I was watching different clips the last kind of couple of days with him, and I'm going to be kind of paraphrasing a little bit here, but there was a clip that he was talking about. He's at some sort of fan press kind of charity night or something. He's talking to the fans, and he's making that point of basically F the board, F the money mans, the club is the fans. And Bertie, along with all the lines, to be honest, they all got what this club is about. It's about us. Me and you, Gavin and Daza, Dale, everybody. It's about all of us. It's nothing to do with this board. And we can collectively just now, I think we all hate the current board setup that we have, and we'll not go into it too much tonight.
That's very strong.
But Bertie was one of these guys that just seems to, he doesn't give a fuck about that shit. He has an opinion on it, so he did, but be all and end all of this club and for Bertie and playing football is doing it for the fans. I think he said a few times as well, like, you only got the opportunity to play because our dads wanted him to play. And he's been at fan conferences and talking to fans and stuff. And people, oh, you got a bit of time for me, Bertie? I would like a picture for you. And there's always stories about Bertie coming back and says, I've always got time for you. Because your dad and your granddad had time for us as players and gave us that opportunity. So likewise, we'll have it back. And it's such a different mentality to the older guys in the generation of footballers to what we have now. Which, no disrespect to the new players. I mean, obviously, we love watching football still, and the entertainment value is superb. But it's a different era. And these guys were born and bred Glasgow boys, Saltcoats even, for some of them. But they're all born and bred the same as me, you, your old man, your granddad and stuff. They're no different from theirs. And right up until the very last moment, I think Bertie probably made sure he lived his life that way, just being a normal guy. Doesn't matter who he was brushing shoulders with. Even going to steal a wee story from Willie Hockey. I think he was on Go Radio yesterday. I think he was telling the story. I should have heard it before somewhere. But there's some sort of dinner, and one of the Gallagher brothers, I think it was Noel Gallagher, was there as well. And he kept nudging Willie Hockey to tell him to get the soup. Tell him to get the soup. Well, he's like, what the fuck's up with the soup sort of thing? He said, tell him to get the soup. So Willie goes up to him apparently and says, soup's magic, mate. Get the soup. That's fine. Gallagher goes off, gets his soup, comes back, sits down. Fucking Bertie Auld turns to him and says, do you want to roll with it? I was like, fuck, such a cringe. But at the same time, this is a guy who won the European Cup with Celtic. Absolute legend across the whole of the UK, if not the whole of Europe. Absolute legend. And then he's sitting with Noel Gallagher, who's a millionaire, 20 times over probably, or some crap, well above financially and wealth and all that kind of hoity-toity status, well above what Bertie would be in the modern day. And Bertie's sitting there going, fuck this shit, I'm just going to talk to him, tell him fucking daft wee jokes and fucking be a wee smartass to him. Fucking brilliant. That's what you want to see, man.
Well, I think that's everything that kind of encapsulated me, Bertie, wasn't it? It was just total banter.
Aye.
As I say, we could probably sit here all night and kind of share, all the stories and all the banter, all the jokes that everybody's told. But as I say, we'd be here all night. But everybody's kind of done that the last few days, and everything's out there. And it's just good that all the younger guys and that can kind of get to see that and see what your heroes and legends. That this is the guys that won us the European Cup, and this is the way they were. They were all family. They were all friends. And you said it earlier on about the era of the players around about that time. I was on Dale's podcast the other night, Celtic Supporters Podcast. Check it out. And that was one of the things that I'd said. Between the difference between today's eras of football players is they're all millionaires. They're all focused on Instagram. Fucking promoting clothing lines, all this kind of stuff. But back then, your players were they weren't that far removed from the common man. They were only on an extra maybe a couple of pounds more than you would get. And working in the town, something like that. And they were common. They were common people. and they were just doing the thing that they love. I mean, the majority of them are all Celtic supporters, all born and bred Celtic supporters, grew up Celtic supporters, and they were able to live their dreams of playing for Celtic, and they done it. They made dreams, never just lived dreams, made dreams. They made legacies. They made themselves legends. Everybody talks about 1967. Young guys these days all know about 1967. They all know that we won the European Cup, and this is the guys that won the European Cup. And we Bertie, sadly, he's another one that's left us for that legendary team. It's obviously it's a shame that he's passed. We can only kind of send our condolences on to his family. Hope that they take something from the fact that he was a much loved wee fella. His jokes and wisecracks are being shared everywhere across the world. Everybody's getting a laugh at them, and everybody's getting to hear the story about wee Bertie again. And another legend gone, but his legacy will live on.
Oh, it definitely will. I think in time, I think we'll all hear every story possible. We all want to hear them, but I think that's also what Bertie would have wanted from himself. Obviously, he'd never met the guy, unfortunately, but judging from his character, I think he would want everybody to be retelling these stories and having a laugh and celebrating the fact that he was truly one of us who got to play for Celtic and live the dream.
Aye, definitely. Nice words there. Bertie Auld, 1938 to 2021.
Hail, hail.
So, Mr. McGinty, moving on. Ange Postecoglou. He was at a fan media conference yesterday. I believe you'll know more about that than I did because I've been really busy the last couple of days.
Showing yourself up. I thought you were a Celtic fan.
Yeah, I'm on, mate. I've been busy. Somebody's got life, or not?
Well, I try. I didn't realise it was actually happening. And as fan media is concerned, that's probably quite poor from us guys here. But I think we're trying our best just to be.
How dare we not be invited?
We're not invited. What the hell? Do they not know about us? I think that's something that we're trying to do here on the Jungle Gym. We're trying to be as laid back as we can. We're shooting the shit, talking football, talking about Celtic. We're not in this game to try and chase the ticket to the media conference. I wouldn't know what to fucking ask them. I'd end up raging and just shouting obscenities and asking fucking demands of who the fuck is Michael Higgins.
By the way, can I just say that sounds like the fucking perfect you should be the next representative. That's
I should be. But
who fucking chased Tom McKay? Who done it?
Well, I want to know, but I don't think I'd hold my temper too well. And I'd get his band out.
I don't think you and I and plenty of others like us could be that PC.
We'll send Gavin though. He seems to talk a good game a lot bit better than the rest of us.
Aye, obviously Gav's not here tonight. He's unwell and Dazza couldn't make it, so you're left with.
We'll have them back next time.
Gav would be the perfect one. So hopefully, in the future,
Aye, once he gets his sniffles under control, we'll send him to the next one. But no, it happened yesterday, and I was actually trying to catch up on it before we went live. So forgive me for not having the greatest notes in the world, but there was a few good points that Ange got asked a few questions by the different fan media. I can't remember all the questions and who asked what. I said my notes aren't up to scratch at this point, so I do apologise. If we're reading out points that have been made by other podcasts, apologies, we can't credit you, but obviously we recognise it's from you guys. But there's some good points from Ange in regards to especially January transfer coming up. He's made a couple of good points about how we are lacking still in player numbers and depth. I think we can all admit that. We're looking, personally as fans, we're looking at left back still being an issue. But I think we're all not acknowledging that we're still looking for two more centre mids, one to play alongside Callum and one to kind of give Tom Roderick a little bit of a respite sometimes. And then we're still looking arguably for a backup goalkeeper. Barkas and so forth's not going to be cutting it, and possibly another striker. So it's good that we know that, but it's great to hear that Ange has kind of affirmed that he does want that to happen, and he's looking for depth there in the January transfer window. He also mentioned about the backroom staff. One of the guys for the podcast asked about the kind of timeline and what's happening with the backroom staff. Obviously, bringing Anton McElhonn's been a great addition. Ange has paid a bit of respect to him for coming in and doing a good job so far in his short time. But he's admitted that he wants more in the backroom staff from the recruitment and the scouting side. So again, that's good to see that Ange is acknowledging it. He's communicating it with the fans. That's what I want. When I talk about I want better communication with the club, I want somebody just to acknowledge to us that they understand what the roles are, what needs filled, and that we are going in that direction. That's what we're trying to achieve. So it's great that we're going to be looking to fill some roles. What they are, who knows? But it's there. Something that I took from that, though, just the way that he worded some things and the way that he said things. I'll see if I've got a wee quote here. In terms of the structure around here, we still need some work around our recruiting and our scouting departments. That will be the next focus for me, says Ange, to make sure we get the right people in that area. That's probably the one area where football is changing rapidly. The information that is out there and how you get that information and how you use that information, particularly around scouting, that's the next step for me in terms of January. So that's Ange saying those. And the way they keep saying, for me, for Ange, tells me that he's taken a strong interest in this club and the inner workings of how we act as a modern football club, which I think, along with Don Mackay initially, was going to be an interesting point that they're going to push forward and modernise the club. So it's good to see that Ange is still taking on that role. It highlights that he understands the need for it, and it also highlights that maybe he's actually truly here for the kind of long haul for maybe the next 2-3 years. He's not got a quick flash in the pan, get to the EPL too quickly, hopefully. So that's good to see.
Was that a wee in joke there, was it, McGinty?
Did I miss something? I did not make a joke if I made one.
Oh, was that no a wee Stevie G joke there? No, jumped to the EPL quickly. There.
Oh no, but we'll crack on with it. First time with jumping ship, No, that was not meant. The other big thing that I took from him was somebody asking about Jota and Carter Vickers and obviously tying down their loan deals. And he went on about Jota for a while and basically says, look, I'm not going to throw a contract at the guy who's just in the door and he's having a good spell just now. Basically, he wants to see him do it consistently. And he's brought him in because, he said this before about generally players, he's bringing guys in who want to be at the club. So he's affirming that Jota wants to be here. So I think we all know that the, was it 6.3, 6.5 option to buy him is in there.
Yeah, 6.5, I think. I
think it's about that, yeah. So that's in there. And he skirted around saying basically, if we want him, we'll have him here next season. He keeps dancing around that until the very end where he basically says, look, we're going to analyse and we'll see how he gets on for the whole season and we'll make that deal happen if we want it to happen. At the end of it, he basically does say, look, if I want him here beyond this season, I'll have him here. And it's like, well, good, because again, he's acknowledging the talent that Jota is and he's pushed forward to hopefully try and get him to keep proving his worth. Don't throw a contract at a boy too quickly and see how he gets on. But yeah, that's about as far as I got in the press conference. I was just pretty happy to hear positivity from the manager talking to the fans again. I think we've had a bit of fan communication every so often. When we had new players come in, they kind of got thrown into kind of the Zoom question kind of crap that was kind of like given to the fan media, but nobody ever fucking saw it. But this one is seemingly is a bit more of a fan media, kind of like what we had in the summer. And it's been pushed out there a lot better. So really good to see it. More engagement with the fans again and good positive words from Ange going forward into January for backroom staff and player recruitment.
Well, that's good to hear then that there's actually some kind of communication between hierarchy and fans, because that was something that we were concerned about, especially for Don Mackay left, because it seemed to be that he was the driving force behind that to start the season, whereby you had your fan engagement groups, you had your conferences, you had your Zoom meetings, there was this and that. That was something that appeared to be Don Mackay that brought that in. But then all of a sudden, after a few weeks, Don Mackay leaves. And then we're thinking, right, okay, what's going on here? And then his replacement, who is Michael Nicholson,
Nicholson, I said Higgins earlier. My apologies.
Higgins,
I realised where Higgins came from.
I think you're thinking about Bernard Higgins. Michael Nicholson. And we're thinking to ourselves, when this guy's come in, he's clearly approved by the board, has worked with the board in another capacity. So is he then going to be, part of the status quo again? But if this is another wee step towards fan engagement, communication, then I'm all for that, and long may it continue. It's certainly, we need that. We need that as fans.
We do. For me, it dropped off even while Don Mackay was here. It dropped off too quickly and too suddenly for Matt Lakin. We had that press conference that both of them done with the media. Then they did the same thing with the fan media, which we got a little bit more insight and a bit more. I feel we get a bit more information when the fan media asks the questions, because it's usually questions we want to answer. Questions we want to ask. And normally you get an Ange coming back with kind of wholesome answers and honest answers, because he kind of recognises, I know what you want to hear for your own concerns. It's not media kind of try to catch him out. I think he's a bit more wholesome about it. But it kind of dropped off quite quickly for me in the summertime. We also had that kind of Ange mic'd up, which was a copycat of a few other managers who've done it across Europe, where you get to see them on the training ground. Mm-hmm. I was looking forward to seeing that like once a week, once a fortnight, a bit more of that, but that dropped off as well. So I was gutted to see that happen that way. I wonder how much that was maybe Don Mackay, and then it's all been whipped away from us. And maybe now we're seeing Ange push to say, actually, the guys need this, the guys want that. And he wants that. So maybe we're starting to see even Michael Nixon, maybe even him coming in as the term that Banker used, very much a team player coming into the boardroom setup. That's the one. That put the fear into every Celtic fan. Very much put the fear into every Celtic fan, because it almost said Don Mackay wasn't, and we're going back to the old ways, and we're like, fuck this shit. But hopefully there's been a little bit of a lull, because clearly with Don Mackay leaving after 72 days, it wasn't rosy for 71, and then on the 72nd day, he was gone. Obviously, there must have been a week or 2 weeks before that where shit just wasn't working out properly. Nobody's buying personal reasons. He's in another job with the rugby again. Mere weeks, a month afterwards, nobody's buying it. But it's good to see that maybe it's starting up again. Maybe there's that little lull just because we're, again, handing over and people getting used to the new jobs and understanding each other. Maybe things are getting back on track. Maybe that's why we've not seen backroom staff change too much yet. But I'm just talking about, again, he's putting that pressure back on them if that's what he needs to do, or he's at least just reaffirming to the fans it's going to come.
Well, in terms of backroom staff, I mean, I think every single one of us knows fine well that we're so bare-boned in the likes of the scouting department. Anton Michaelon's come in. He's the kind of head of sports science, is that right?
Yeah.
So he's come in. He replaced Jack Naylor. So that obviously was a like-for-like replacement. But we're definitely short on the likes of your scouts and whatnot. So if Ange's coming out today and saying that that's a position that's going to be looked at, that's positive. You look at the actual coaching staff, I actually think that he's quite happy with what he's got there now. I know you're not happy with it. But if you look at it, you've got John Kennedy there, Strachan there, McManus there. It seems to be that, I mentioned it on an earlier podcast, when they're on the pitch, on the sidelines, there's definitely like a rotation, a communication there. It's not just Ange standing himself and nobody talking. They all seem to be working. I mean, even Strachan, who you call him Mr. Laptop or something like that.
Still don't know what he does.
No, I know, but he's been the man that's been communicating with Postecoglou, because Postecoglou does stand on the touchline. He just watches. He's like a statue. Stands, observes, reads everything. Strachan's the man that's up, speaking to him. He's the one that's going back, relaying the instructions, communications, and then they're all in, and they're discussing it. So,
which is good to see. Previously, we've seen obviously, Martin O'Neill was constantly running up and down the touchline with his tracksuit on, the famous leaps in the air whenever we score goals and stuff like that. Brilliant to see that enthusiasm. Then you have obviously Neil Lennon last season, who very much looked like a lone figure out there at times. Maybe we're judging him on the fact that it was a very dire season, to say the least. But it looked like he was a lone figure. He looked like he wasn't getting any help. How many times did we see the pictures of Kennedy kind of sore-faced, almost shaking his head, not even talking to him? But as you say now, it's good to see the dynamic, even with Kennedy and Strachan still there. They're working with Ange. Ange also has his way, as you say, he's standing at the front of that dugout. He's standing there watching the game, taking it all in. And Strachan's coming up, relaying information back and forth to each other, maybe getting the players ready to do whatever they need for subs, maybe doing whatever they need for halftime, whatever it is they discuss. But it looks like there's a communication and some sort of working relationship there, as opposed to last season. It was awful to watch. Interesting enough, just having a quick look at the Celtic website. Transfer Market said similar to what I'm about to say here, but on the Celtic website itself, it still only has Kennedy, Strachan, Stevie Woods, and Ange as the first team coaches management, which is fine. I'm not arguing against it too much at this point. We've all covered the fact that we're woefully understaffed in that position, but that's not what you see in the dugout. Stephen McManus is in the dugout, and there's somebody else who's what's the fitness boy? I say Jury or something. No, I don't know that. There's one of the fitness boys, young lad, fair-haired guy.
Aye, I know who you're talking about.
John, I can't remember. But there's 4, 5, or 6 of them collectively in the dugout and stuff, whereas last season it very much looked like Kennedy and Strachan were sitting doing whatever they do, acting as pals who weren't getting their way sort of thing, and Lennon was outcasted, whereas now you've got all of them, even the ones like McManus there as well. They're doing something. They're working together. I still want the backroom staff to be 3 times as large as it already is just now. And I'll accept that I'm probably not going to get that. But it's working a little bit better and people doing things in the right way now. We're looking forward, as Ange says in his press conference, looking for that recruitment and scouting stuff. We've got Anton McKellen doing the sports science stuff. If he needs more staff, I'm sure he will come out and say, look, give me 1 or 2 more staff. But as far as the recruitment and scouting is concerned, we are definitely needing a lot more as well. So it's good to see we're pushing forward there.
I mean, just off the top of my head, John Curry was that.
Curry.
John Curry.
I knew there's a UR thing in there.
Just to hark back to the scouting, I mean, the only ones that I can think of that I know who's on the books, it'll be the likes of Tosh McKinley. God, what's the English boy's name?
Jay Lefebvre.
Jay Lefebvre. And
he seems to be like the head of the team now. I don't know if he's calling himself head scout, chief scout, head of recruitment, head of scout. I don't know what his technical role is, but he seems to be given the kind of the lead of it. I think he's obviously stepped up then. Aye, I think he's about a similar age to us. He's somewhat young in football circles.
I think he's only about 30, 31, maybe 32.
A bit younger than us then.
Is that right? I wonder what age the other scout is. Young Craig Strachan, another fan of yours.
Let's not go there. But I believe also I believe Peter Houston is actually still at the club now, or came back to the club, and I can't remember when. Some sort of recruitment analyst or something along those lines. And Peter Houston once came in when Park was controlling it all, and I remember reading an interview with Houston that he was somewhat blown away, coming from previously at Dun United and stuff. He came into the Celtic fold and was like, you guys are organised. You have full databases of players across Europe and the world. We've had stories since that we don't have any of that anymore. It's been ripped apart. But Peter Houston's came back in. So I wonder if he's coming in some capacity and maybe be like, let's get back to the old way, because he would know what that used to be back when we had obviously John Park and even David Moss in there. But we don't have those guys anymore. So we definitely need Jay Lefebvre. Apologies, mate. We need him, and if Peter Houston is one of the guys in there, to try and build that team back up, because it's very short-staffed. I think we've named all the backroom staff in this last 5 minutes. It's not enough.
And that's what I'm saying. I think that's just the staff that's kind of on the books as full-time scouts. But obviously, with most clubs, you're going to have your unofficial scouts, you're going to have your part-time scouts, which I'm sure Celtic's got plenty of. But
you would hope, but
well, you certainly
can't rely on part-time scouts who are doing, whatever other job they're doing. We need to be hiring scouts who are on our books, getting paid a full-time wage. And as a scout, you don't need to be paid tens of thousands of pounds a week. You get paid like the rest of us, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45 grand a year. Above average pay salaries. Obviously, you're not getting paid hundreds of thousands of pounds a year for this job. But we need people on our books who are dedicated to it, who we're paying to go across Europe, across the UK, as scouting players and doing proper research on players. I mean, it's great the technology that we have in the day of internet, that we all sit in and we can do it all from our home, but nothing beats actually going and seeing a player live, scouting properly. We need that. I mean, part-time scouts can only do so much. We need guys who are actually going to go out and do that.
But there's obviously got to be a balance, because when you've got a scout physically watching a game, he'll see things that Y-Scout, that kind of database that the scout uses. That's got so much data. That's got so much statistics on it. That's got videos. That's great, but you can't just rely on stuff like that. You're going to have to physically go to games. You're going to have to physically watch a player. You're going to have to watch their off-the-ball movement. We don't have enough scouts in full-time positions to do that, which you've said, and I totally agree with you. But if Postecoglou, it looks like he's here for the long term. It looks like he's enjoying himself. He's loving life at the club. He's actually coming out with comments saying that his family's settled here. He's loving his
comments again from yesterday. His wife and kids are settled. Loves to say one of his anecdotes that he was telling us was the difference between here and Japan. He feels that he was appreciated and loved just as much in both places, but the way that it comes across was different. I think he mentioned that in Scotland he has been invited openly to everybody's house who he meets. Basically, people saying, "Come into my house if you want." Whereas in Japan, he would never get that sort of welcome. It would be a lot more dignified and a lot more kind of respect. And it's sort of obviously the kind of stereotypical Japanese way that we're imagining. But it was good to hear him feel the embrace of the fans and feel the settled nature from his family. He also went on, just to keep touching on him in that press conference, there's a point where he went on about that and basically saying he respects the respect that he's got from the fans, and he knows that he's got the backing of the fans, but he's like, I don't deserve it at this point. I've not done anything, so I need to do it. I need to pay you back for this kind of respect and kind of trust that we're putting in him. So for me, he gets the club now. He definitely gets the club. There was always that worry when he first came in. Do you understand how big this club is? I think he did, and I think he definitely does now. He's totally understands the fans. He's very engaged with us. He's very much going to be one of these guys I think will leave the club like a Ronnie Dyler and just have nothing but good things to say about us.
I certainly hope he's more successful.
I hope he's more successful than Ronnie Dyler, yeah, of course. But
no,
I loved Ronnie Dyler. I'll put it down.
So did I, but he just wasn't good enough. But just to echo your sentiments about Postecoglou, I mean, you listen to the way that he speaks, you listen to the way that he comes across. Everything, I think you mentioned the word humble at the start. Everything's there. Everything's respectful. And even when he's been disrespected, like in the media, when they're asking him ridiculous questions, kind of snaky, snidey comments, trying to get a bite,
he still calls him mate.
Aye, but even the way he comes across as that, I mean, he doesn't come across like an idiot. He knows what he's doing, and he's no some snarling kind of arsehole.
I think I've said it before as well. The difference between how he does it, Ange does it, and the way that Gordon Strachan did it. And I loved Gordon Strachan's little quips that he made. Not a big fan of him overall, but his quick responses. Can I have a quick word with you, Gordon? Velocity. Brilliant. Loved it. But at the same time, you weren't giving us or telling the fans anything that we wanted to hear. You're just being quirky for the sake of it. And at points it got a bit irritating because it's like, well, going to actually talk to us. Whereas Ange, he's got that good way of putting the media in their place in affirmative, you're asking me a fucking dumbass question, but I'm still going to answer you because the fans need to know the information. Because that's what he's talking to. You go back to what Bertie Auld was always saying. This football club's about the fans. Ange knows that. Ange is always talking about playing football that his dad would love. His dad's a fan, not of us, obviously, but his dad's a fan of football. He knows what football is. He comes from that kind of background for me, that he understands football is all about the support and the fans, not about the suits and the money.
Absolutely. You mentioned that he's talking about the January signings. Has there been any kind of more talk about any players coming in, any players leaving? I think I heard that Barkas is getting closer to the exit.
We keep hearing that rumour, yeah. I believe it probably end up being a loan deal first. We'll see Barkas out the door. I'm not sure who else is going to be out the door. Bolingoli arguably could and should be, but then he's made some random sporadic appearances, so fuck knows how that one's going out.
The left back Laurie.
I don't think we can afford too many other players to leave the club. I think before ball was kicked in the summer, we would have been all right. We had Jetty leaving if we were bringing in more players, but we can't afford to lose any more of the 3 strikers that we've got. And yeah, we can do with better, but until we get another one in, I don't think we'll see a Jetty go out. There's the ongoing rumour of, what's his name, the Japanese boy, Maeda.
Daizan Maeda.
There's that ongoing rumour, which apparently is he out contract at the end of this year, so it's going to cost us nothing, or is he like 900,000 he's pigeoned it?
I think
900,000. It's the other boy, Hakati, that's the free agent, I think.
Hatati.
And then you've got you had another link to a Shamrock Rovers boy the last couple of days. 23-year-old boy, midfielder. Not overly impressed with that rumour. No offence to any of them, but the last one hasn't worked out yet, so I don't see the next one being of much use to Celtic at this point. Very much going to be not a project at 23, but very much we'll see what you can do for us. If we can make a turn on you, then good. But that's not what we need. We need proven players who are going to come in and challenge a place with McGregor, Turnbull, McCarthy. We need people who are going to challenge them, not people who are just going to be making up a number.
Well, I would love to see certainly Maeda coming in. I think he'd be a fantastic addition to the squad, and I'm actually sitting kind of every day, sitting just hoping that we get this guy in, because we've all seen the YouTube videos. The guy looks incredible, light and fast. I think he absolutely dwarfs over every kind of pressing statistic in Japan, and he's a player that would just slot seamlessly into this team. Moving on, probably your favourite subject ever to talk about on a Celtic podcast. Tomorrow, as we have alluded to, we have an AGM. How would you like to start this topic off?
I'm probably going to try and be a little bit reserved just now. I feel like I've spoke quite a lot so far tonight, and I want to save this for the outcome of the AGM when we do a podcast next week. But yeah, the AGM's coming up tomorrow. There's been a bit of a controversial kind of issues going on with the build-up to this one. If anybody's been following the Celtic Trust on Twitter, you would have noticed that I think things have been brought forward. Deadlines were brought forward definitely to try and get people to submit any resolutions that they want or any discussions that need to be brought up. So things were kind of like short time. So there's a bit of a fury on Twitter and online to try and get certain things into this AGM. And I'm reading this off of the Herald Scotland website about things that are going to be discussed. There's a few points here. I do not know if it's an exhaustive list. But a few points I'm bringing up is Resolution 12 is coming up again. Last year, I think the Celtic board thought that was put to rest. But the Celtic Trust, by the looks of it, has managed to force that one back onto the agenda, which I'm very much glad to see back on. Although nothing's happened with Resolution 12 in all these years, I don't see it suddenly changing tomorrow. The setup of the way the AGMs are done there's too many big shareholders with too many shares who are basically going to outvote everything. So I don't see anything going to happen with it, but it's good to see that they're pushing it back on there because the fans have not been answered yet. This is not something that should go away. And for those who are a bit unsure about what this is, it's maybe old news to a lot of people and you might be sick of it, but it's basically to do with Rangers getting that UEFA license back in 2010 when basically they fudged the fucking financials for that year, and legally speaking, in the football terms of the financial books going into that season, they should not have been awarded a UEFA license to play. So Celtic the fans are looking to try and get that back on the agenda, so that will be discussed. Other things coming up will be generally the transfer window, January approaching. Also, we've heard from Ange Postecoglou yesterday, so all the good stuff on there. We're going to talk about, obviously, the capture of Kyogo, Hart, Jota, Vickers, and where we want to go next, what gaps are we going to be filling. And the not surprise one, but the one that I'm glad to see is on, is Dominic Mackay. The fact that he was only here for 72 days, the fact that Michael Nicholson still remains in a technically interim basis. So that will obviously be discussed. I imagine we're going to discuss, or somebody's going to ask questions of where the fuck are we going? Is Nicholson going to be made permanent? Which arguably, I don't know if that is possible at an AGM, but that could be something that we find out from the AGM that it's going to be made permanent, or that we are looking to get somebody else in. Either which way, it'd be good to know one way or the other.
I know you're saying it's good that it's going to be on the agenda, but we all kind of know what the Celtic board's agenda is. And when you talk about transparency and communication, what do you think that you're actually going to hear in this AGM of any note? Because you know what it's going to be like, right? You're going to have the questions. You'll have the lineup of the board. You'll hear the quick rundown of the AGM. They'll tell you what they want to hear. You'll have the first person up asking the question. It'll be a plant by the board asking fucking, when are you putting fucking spaghetti on the fucking menus at Celtic Park? Something like that, you know, something just to throw it off. These occasions don't get me, I don't want to say no interested, but I just expect to hear the same old garb.
When it comes to those points, I already feel like I can hear what Bankier is going to say about it all. The resolution 12 is going to be basically argued by the board that it was put to rest last year. Nothing that we're going to do going forward. We've got no interest in it. There's no appetite by the overall support. Raise your hand, basically. Do you want to go forward with this? And there's that many shareholders that are going to side with the board and say, nah, let's shut up again. So we're not going to hear anything from resolution 12, unfortunately. But it's good to see it's there, and that obviously the fans' voice is still that we want something to happen. As far as transfers are concerned, we're going to hear about how we've made 10 or 12 signings in the summer, positivity, settling in periods, leaderships of Joe Hart. We're going to do the kind of dance about the positive side of the players coming in. And then we're going to definitely hear that we'll look to invest and strengthen in the January transfer window. I would like to see questions based again off of what Andrew was saying yesterday about the backroom staff, and push that agenda a wee bit more and get a board level response that tells us that we are definitely going in that direction, that we are getting a director of football or whoever or whatever. And as far as Michael Nicholson's concerned as the interim, I expect that the line of personal reasons of Dominic Mackay leaving will be rehashed again. They're not going to go into any detail. There'll be their own reasons not to, but then we'll confirm either Michael Nicholson staying or we'll be stepping down. But I don't think we're not going to hear of any new signings, backroom wise, boardroom wise. We're not going to hear of anything major. We know what the answers are going to be already. Aye.
And you know exactly what kind of deflection tactics you'll hear, you know, especially when it comes to Dom Mackay. What are they honestly going to tell you? You know,
nothing.
Just for talking sake, I mean, if Mackay's left for whatever reason, there's been some sort of a non-disclosure kind of thing signed. What is it they're actually going to tell you other than he left for personal reasons? Somebody will probably try and ask a question. Did he leave on his own accord? Was he relieved of his duties? This kind of thing. No.
Who instigated it? Yeah.
He left for personal reasons, and that'll be and it'll be the same thing. It'll be Ian Bankier just sitting there as smug as get out and just kind of lavishing up the fact that they'll be able to tell you a stat that they've earned this much money and earned that, and things are so rosy in the garden with Postecoglou in terms of now and last season. It's
basically expect the statement from the financial results to be basically read out to you, as far as I'm concerned. That's what we're going to get. Everything is rosy. COVID was a hard time. Let's focus on going forward. Let's focus on rebuilding our stock, sort of thing. Could always be worse. A little some half jibe at the Huns that things could be worse. That we're not in the worst debt. Everybody's struggling, sort of thing. But we're going to build it back up. All that kind of crap. Usual shit. I'm not expecting anything. It's good that it come around, and it's probably good for me to get frustrated at it, because then I can rant and rave next week. But at the end of the day, we all know what's coming. Or what's not coming.
I'm sure if there's anything absolutely earth-shattering and groundbreaking, we can maybe rattle out a wee podcast tomorrow and let you go.
If I must.
If you must. Anyway, moving on for that show, right? The football's back at the weekend. We are by the international break. Thank fuck.
Did you not enjoy that international break, Paddy?
I did, mate, and I had a lovely time watching the Ireland game. It's fantastic.
Did you? Oh, that's good. I'm going to bring it up. I know you've got no interest whatsoever, but I'm going to bring up. Great game of football last night. Scotland winning 2-0 against Denmark. I will hold my hands up that possibly Denmark didn't play at their strongest. A couple of players were left out. But neither here nor there, we still won 2-0 as a Scotland team. And for me, it was one of the best performances I've ever seen from Scotland. As a footballing unit, we played football. We took the game to them. It was a good game of football.
Do you know what? I actually watched the highlights.
Did you? Good.
After you told me, I didn't even know they were playing. To be honest, I watched the highlights, and I was really surprised by how good that they looked. I know it was obviously highlights, but what you guys were telling me, they were attacking, they were positive, which is something you don't really see for a Scotland squad.
No, that's the thing. We actually played football. There's plenty of times where 4, 5, 6 passes, 1, 2 touches, pass and move, the kind of things that you want to see from a football team, even Celtic, obviously, and getting forward and trying to create space. It was good to see, whereas in the past, coming up against teams like Denmark or stronger and better teams, we would have sat back, we would have made 2 passes, lost possession, we chasing tails. We weren't chasing tails last night. Defensively, we were sound as well. There was obviously moments that Denmark got at us, but the back 3 were solid as fuck. Even Billy Gilmore, who is quite a small-framed guy, great footballer, still learning his trade, obviously. But he was coming back and making some good kind of clearances in the central kind of middle of the park on the defensive kind of line. So it was good to see. Overall, room to be excited about. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about St Johnston and Celtic game coming
Correct.
up.
As I said, the football's back. Thank God. So Celtic versus St Johnston, the Premier Sports Cup Semi Final. That's on Saturday, and it's is it 5:15 kickoff?
Oh, I do not know. I'm working. I've not. If it's 5:15, I actually can see it. You talk.
So that's international break over. The kind of worst spell for a Celtic fan when there's no Celtic football on. So we're back at Hampden for the semi-final against St Johnston. I am absolutely buzzing and looking forward to it. I've missed Celtic, mate. I've missed them. Really missed them.
It's good to come back, and you were right. Just for anybody who's unsure, as I was, 5:15. I will be able to watch it. I'll be home from work. I am excited. I thought I was going to miss it.
Your internet's getting a bit wonky there, mate.
I'll let you continue. Hopefully
that's you. You're
back up.
You're
Excellent.
Back. You're back. That's I take it that's Wi-Fi reached the Shetlands then, huh?
Yeah, well, I had to put an extra hamster on the wheel.
So back to the game. I'm buzzing. I just want to see us getting back out. And first things first. Obviously, we Bertie passing. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the Green Brigade's got in plan. I'm 100% sure that they'll have some sort of a amazing tifo at the ready, and I would love it if there's massive rendition of the Celtic song at the start of the game.
I want to hear all game. I know it's not going to happen that way, but it'd be fucking beautiful if we just sang the Celtic song for the whole 90 minutes. Nothing else. Just kept singing it all the way. Fucking amazing. I doubt it'll happen. It'll be a long shot, but it'd be great if it did. But I've got every faith that there'll be a good tifo on the go.
So that's obviously at the start of the game. Onto the game itself. I think are we going to have Starfelt back and Rogic?
The thought and assumption was that both would be back just after the international break. However, I would be quite impressed if both are fully fit and in the starting lineup. You might see one on the bench, one starting perhaps.
So you're probably going to be looking at the same kind of lineup for the last game, which would have been Joe Hart in goals, Juranovic left back, Welsh and Vickers centre back, Ralston at the right, Beaton, Turnbull, McGregor in the midfield, with Jota left, Abada right, and Kyogo centre.
Yeah, I'd like to think that that's probably going to be the case. I've not got an up-to-date injury to make sure, but I get the feeling it'd be too good to have both of them fully fit and back straight away. But from what I understand, both of them were due to look to the international break to be kind of the ballpark of when we're coming back. The only one I think actually is still out, am I right in saying, is Julian? Properly out. Well, he can't be far back either.
I'm sure Postecoglou said during the international break there that Julian would be ready for minutes after the international break. So that's a positive. I can't see him being in the squad for the semi-final game. It's certainly not anywhere near the starting lineup. So if Starfelt and Rogic on the fit, you'll probably see possibly them on the bench, but definitely you'll probably end up with the same lineup that finished the last game. But the good thing is, I mean, that's going to be Postecoglou's first game at Hampden, a packed stadium full of the Celtic support, and I think that's going to be the first Celtic game at Hampden since the Hearts final last season. Is that right?
Okay. Yeah.
For the quadruple.
Because we fucked up everything else after that.
Yeah, we certainly did, mate. But no, listen, that should be a memorable occasion for Postecoglou. You know, stepping out to Hampden, big stadium, seeing the Celtic fans, and definitely you're hoping to see them come away with a comprehensive win.
We see it. We see it every time we play at Hampden. The big open pitch should lend itself to seeing a good game of football from Celtic, and it usually does. But if we can get that front three, Jota, Kyogo, Abada, which I believe Kyogo barely played an hour over the two games while he's been in Japan, so I don't think he's taken a knock or an injury. I think he's basically, it's just going to be the jet lag time. As long as he's back, I guess tomorrow he'll have a couple of days to get back on track. So he's not been burnt out, which is always the worry with Tam Rogic going abroad. So that's good so far. If we can get those front three playing, judging by how we know, especially Jota and Kyogo work together these days, we'll score 3 or 4 goals easily. We can't take St Johnston lightly, though. They just won 2 cups last year. They're no mugs. We need to pay them good respect here. We're still on our rebuild, so expect them to play a good game of football. Expect them to know how to play on this Hampden pitch. But at the same time, this is an opportunity for us to get into the final, for us to put down that marker again. For me, this is the McGinty gauntlet, the 8th game in this run. I actually thought I came before the international break. That's why I plugged it in here as well. But I'll take it. If we win, that's 7 wins out of 8 with 1 draw. That's you can only go one stage better and get all 8 wins. So if we get ourselves into the final on Saturday, then this little period has been a great success for the club, for the squad going forward. And I think definitely we should be using this weekend as that springboard that feel-good buzz around the club, getting into the final, playing on the Hampden pitch again, and just push forward. Back from the international break, all cylinders firing and all that good stuff that we cliche fucking sayings. Let's just get on that pitch, get some goals, and yeah, really excited to see it happen.
Do you think the St Johnston team is going to be as dirty as they were the last time we played them at Celtic Park?
Aye. No reason for them not to, but the pitch should lend itself to us being able to play our game of football. I think it is slightly bigger than Celtic Park, isn't it? Wider anyway.
I don't know.
Is it no? As it just looks that way with that running track.
The running track, right.
I expect them to play dirty. It's clearly a route that they planned to go down because it wasn't exactly a clean game. They planned that from the start. That's the way they played. So I expect them to be a little bit dirty. I expect them to kind of try and harry us off the ball, ruffle us up a little bit. But our lineup's slightly different. We had Giamakis starting that game with Kyogo out on the right. So hopefully that's different. We get Kyogo back through the middle again. No offense to Giamakis. And Abada, we direct kind of pace and drive, and Jota, obviously the form that he's in with Kyogo. I think we'll see a few goals. I mean, we still won that game 2-0. So there's no reason we don't go in this believing we can win, but we need to give them a little bit of respect. They know how to play in a Hampden now.
No, definitely. And you said there was the 8 games, the 7 before the international break. There was definitely a fluency in the Celtic team.
Yeah.
They were getting cohesive, playing together. They seemed to be part of the Livingston game, which I don't want to talk about. I spoke about it enough. They were definitely looking to be playing so much better under the Postecoglou style. You had guys like Ralston busting a gut. He's looking to be a piece of that jigsaw that keeps moving. Jota, Kyogo, Abada even. Abada's been a wee bit come under a wee bit of criticism for no doing so much in games, but recently he's looked pretty good. Obviously before the international break, and the defence was starting to get solidified. Obviously you've got change now with Starfelt being injured, so it's probably going to be Welsh. So I'm definitely looking forward to hopefully seeing us carrying on that trend that we left before the international break and being a really entertaining side. A team that's going to be striving to go and score goals aplenty, have loads of possession and just attack. And it's a massive occasion for the gaffer and guys like Kyogo, Jota. If they're playing at a big pitch like that in a semi-final and they manage to get through to a final, that's going to raise their spirits.
Yeah, 100%. It's a buzz and a feel-good factor. I don't believe for a minute that the guys have been listening to me talking about a gauntlet for the last 2 months, but they'll get that buzz off of this game. They will understand the form that they've been in, and to come back from the international break now, to continue that form, to get into a final, to give themselves something to look forward to. Yeah, it's going to work on guys like Kyogo, Jota, on Joe. That guy's taken to this club phenomenally well. Didn't think I'd say that when he was first linked with us. I was actually quite against the prospect, but he's went on to prove me wrong quite happily, and arguably third best goalkeeper that I've seen in my life at Celtic. I know it's early days, but he's up there with the experience that he brings, the leadership, the way he controls the back line, and he still has the good quality goalkeeping saves that he was known for in his younger days. So I'm very happy with him being at the club, and he will, judging on how he's taken to the club and the fans, he will 100% love getting into that final and having that something to play for. He's here to win medals.
He's here to win, yep.
He's here to win it. He's made his money. Yeah, I imagine much like Sinclair said in an interview after he signed for us, he's made his money. He's played at Man City. He had the big bucks. He's played in Italy with Torino. He's experienced all that stuff. He's probably new at the age and the time where he's like, actually, get back to winning medals. Mm-hmm. Get back to winning football games and getting trophies and medals and all the good shit and be adored by a fan base. Because end of the day, that's what it's all about. As Bertie Auld says, it's all about the fans.
And Joe Hart's what, 34? I think
34. Still, I mean,
34.
Buffon is anything to go by. You've still got 6 good years out of the guy.
But even at that, Joe Hart's obviously won silverware down in England.
Oh, for sure.
He's done that. He's went and won silverware. He can come here and win silverware, but being at the age that he is, it's no time whilst he's on the dwindling kind of twilight of his career. He needs to enjoy his football, enjoy what's left of his football, and he's definitely doing that at Celtic. But what he's also bringing in is a leadership quality. You know, he's bringing stature to the back.
Mm-hmm.
He's bringing a force. You know what I mean? He's leading these guys on the pitch. He's not got the captain's armband, but he's doing it at the back.
Oh, you know, 100%. You've seen that backline over time become more steady and more sure of itself. Weirdly enough, I think it was the 6 games before Starfelt got injured, we only conceded 2 goals. But then the 4 games since he's been injured, I think we've conceded 6 goals or something silly like that. We're still winning the games, but it's weird how a settled backline coming from Joe Hart and that front back four, settled, organised, it works. I'm not judging Stephen Welsh, I'm not being harsh on him, whatever, but small changes, just one player coming out who's not been quite used to it for the last couple of months, it changes it a little bit. Things may be a little bit shaky, maybe, being harsh, but it's interesting to see where that steady lineup, that consistent back to with Carter Vickers and Starfelt and even Joe Hart behind them, and obviously Anthony Ralston steady at right back as much as he can be. It lends a lot to the club progressing and being in the form that's in, being in the momentum that we're going into, or the momentum that we are carrying. It's good. It's good.
So we're carrying form. We're getting players back from injury. You know, Starfelt, Rogic, Julian. Hopefully, everybody's looking forward to seeing him. Even guys like Forrest. Forrest is going to be picking up more fitness. Mm-hmm. He's going to be ready for some more minutes. So that's another leader on the park. That's another guy with experience, drive, and energy. Everything so far is looking rosy. And that's us just before we get to the January transfer window when we can start to bring in more recruits. So I'm delighted with what I'm seeing. I'm delighted with the positivity behind everything. I'm looking forward to us getting back into domestic duties as well, getting up the table. And I fully believe that after recent events across the road, with your man Stevie G up in sticks and going to Villa, that there's going to be a rather quick turnaround in the position of power in Scottish football. That's another team that's obviously playing at the weekend. They'll be playing Hibs.
They can't take that lightly either. No. They've got their own history with Hibs at Hampden. Here's hoping. For me, the league position has gotten better than it was eight games ago. I think we're still 4 points behind.
4 points, yep.
After that draw that we had the other week there. But it's a lot better. It was it 6 at one point? So we've brought that down in this period. Our slip up meant that it isn't as brought down. I mean, it could have been 2. It really could have been a lot closer, which would have been fantastic. But yeah, we brought it into line. I believe, looking at our upcoming games and their upcoming games before we play them in January, they're likely to drop points again, even before they lost Slippy. They are likely to drop points again. Very much so, depending on their new manager. If it's Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, so be it. Doesn't faze me, but there's going to be a bedding in period. You might get that wee 2-3 weeks, 2-3 games of a honeymoon period where everything's rosy, but at some point they're going to drop points, and we've got what is perceived the easier run in December. I think we'll get close to maximum points. So I believe we'll be within that kind of 3-point game margin come January the 2nd, and it'll be in our hands to shift that power so that we're top of the table coming the new year.
I think it will be kind of roughly even by the time that we get to that game.
But I can see it being close. Then we'll take it, and then from there, going into January, we do our recruitment properly in January. You know, get the 2 midfielders in, get the left back position sorted. I believe from what Ange Postecoglou was saying yesterday, we're not going to throw a contract at Jota or Carter Vickers. We're going to take our time with it. We've got the options there, so fair enough. But it would be awesome to tie down Jota and Carter Vickers in January and have it all cemented and in place, because going from January, getting 2 midfielders, a left back, potentially a striker, and cementing those 2 players down going into the summer would actually mean, for one time, going into the new season next year. I know so far in front, but we'd actually be going into the new season, no qualifiers, hopefully, and having a settled side. I mean, imagine when's the last time we went into a pre-season and into qualifiers with a proper backline? We'll be able to, hopefully, if we get a left back sorted, we'll be able to go into the qualifiers, into the early part of next season. We Hart, Juranovic, Carter Vickers, Starfelt or Julian, Welsh in there as well, a left back sorted. We've never had that for fucking years. It'd be great to see that, to go in and not be worried about putting Neil Beaton in centre defence again. I mean, how many times do we see that every fucking summer?
Just wheeling Beaton out of the cupboard to go and play centre back into it. But
poor guy who plays 5 games at the start of the season and never seen it again.
Well, hopefully I never do see him again. Like, I'm still not his biggest fan. But listen, we've been told by Australians, followers of the J League, that when Postecoglou comes into a club, he tries to transform it in his first season. He tries to put his own stamp on it, put his own character into the team, and it takes a bit of time to gel. We took a few weeks to gel, and then it started all of a sudden, just started to kick in. The Aberdeen game was probably the pinnacle of that so far.
Pinnacle of it. End of the kind of bad run for me. A lot of people on the message boards and Twitter and stuff are very quick to turn around and say, some of the fans were questioning Ange Postecoglou during that kind of period leading up to the Aberdeen game. For me, he should have been questioned. We were dropping points, and we could all see why we were dropping points. I totally get what the Australian guys are saying. I fully understand what they're saying, that bringing a new manager in, a different philosophy, a different way of playing, we know, we're not idiots. We know that takes time. But at a club like Celtic, you don't have the luxury of doing that without still trying to get points on the table. And we were dropping points at times when we were needlessly not able to, and we could all see why the inverted fullbacks was an issue. It seems to be reined in, and the backline got settled over time, and we all know over time it would get better. We all got that. But during the hardship of trying to understand it as a squad, we needed to see something happen, and he just, at that point, wasn't looking like he was willing to do anything to mitigate the bedding in period. We had injuries as well. Obviously, losing McGregor and Kyle at one point wasn't ideal, but they're all back. Everything is now looking rosy again. It makes us look fickle and bipolar, but at the same time, that's the nature of the beast when you're playing in a club like Celtic. You take that. But it's good now. We see that going well. As you say, with the guys, the user tells he needs the first season to bed in. We definitely saw that as well. We see the difference. We see the players are definitely getting on board with it. I think the vast majority of them are getting on board with it. And we're getting told, generally speaking, that it's a second year is when everything just flies. As opposed to sometimes you see with some managers that obviously we'll highlight Brendan Rodgers, because I think he's going through a tough time. Third season at Leicester sort of thing just now, where some managers have that reputation where third season at Liverpool, third season at Celtic, third season at Leicester, Brendan Rodgers' team sort of kind of phases itself out a little bit. That happens. A manager needs to then show that he can change it up again. A manager always needs to adapt. But it looks like Ange is the one who's going to be, well, actually, first season, struggle, build up. Second season, we go for it. To me, that means that third season, surely everything's flying still. But we'll see how we go when we get to there.
Aye. Great things to look forward to. Great bit of football at the weekend to look forward to. So that's just about wraps it up for us tonight. Before we go, obviously we had to change the format tonight with the pastor Bertie Auld. We had Dale O'Reilly from the Celtic Supporters Podcast. He was due to come on tonight. So both were thanks and apologies to Dale for giving up his spot tonight so that we could do our piece on Bertie. Dale, great man. Again, the Celtic Supporters Podcast, give it a watch. We'll get you on as soon as possible, Dale. But other lineup that we had announced is for next week, and we shall have Tommy Sheridan, political powerhouse in Scottish politics, celebrity Big Brother, and absolute
he did that.
absolute avid Celtic fan. Tommy's got his own podcast with Frank McGarvey. That's called I'm Frank, He's Tommy. I urge everyone to have a wee look at that. Great podcast. So we're absolutely buzzing to have Tommy on next week. Hopefully have some great conversation, good stories for him. And that should be very, very entertaining. So if you can, please give us a watch next week. So that wraps us up for tonight, McGinty. Thanks for coming on, mate. Thanks for
my honour, my pleasure being on our podcast.
Yes, thanks for coming on. Sorry, I'm just in
I'm not the special guest.
Sorry, mate. I don't have planned it in my head to say goodbye to the guest. Thanks for coming on. So everyone, thanks for watching. If you could do us a favour, if you could like and subscribe our YouTube channel, the Jungle Gyms Podcast. Add us on Facebook, the Jungle Gyms Podcast again. Follow us on Twitter at Jungle Gyms Pod, and we are also on Spotify if you want to give us a wee listen to in the car or out jogging or whatever. Whatever you want. So thanks very much everyone for tuning in. The podcast will be up on YouTube very, very soon. So thanks, and we'll see you next time.
All this, who?
Cheers.